Jennifer here with Stone Studio. This is part 2 in our 3-part hand building basics series, and in this video we're going to make a cup using the coiling technique. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is make the base of our cup. So I've cut myself just a little piece of clay, and I'm just going to start to pound it down just using the heel of my hand until it's about 1 centimeter thick. Now, you can also use guides and a rolling pin to get a really nice consistent base. So I've got some 9mm guides here, which are just wooden sticks. I'm going to lay them on either side of my clay, and I'm going to take my rolling pin and roll it in one direction, rotate it, roll it in the other direction, and that's just going to get you a really nice even slab. I've got a little round cookie cutter here, and I'm just going to cut a nice round circle to use as the base of my cup. Now we're going to build the height by using clay coils. So I'm going to start by cutting myself some clay, and I'm going to squeeze it into a bit of a sausage. And I'm probably going to rip that one in half because I probably won't need that much clay to make one coil. So once you've squeezed it into that round sausage shape, we're going to lay it down on the board and we're going to roll out a coil. So I'm using the fingers, and I'm starting in the middle and I'm moving outwards. If you notice it start to get floppy, just squeeze it or pat it back into shape, and then keep rolling. You want the coil to be not as thin as your pinky, but not as thick as your thumb, sort of the same thickness as your index finger. And ideally, they're nice and even coils. Now, once you've got your first coil, let's just make sure ours is long enough, so that'll be plenty, so I'll pinch off that excess that I'm not going to need. We now need to attach the coil to the base of our pot. Now, you cannot just stick 2 pieces of clay together and expect them to hold. As the clay dries, they'll actually detach and fall apart. So to stick 2 pieces of clay together, there's 3 steps we're going to follow. The first one is scoring, and you can use a few different tools for this. This is one of our scoring tools here. And you are just going to score the clay where the 2 pieces of clay are going to join together. If you don't have one of these tools, you can use a needle tool or a pin tool. You're basically just trying to rough up the clay. So we're going to rough that up. I'm also going to just lightly rough up the bottom of my coil. So that's step 1 to do the scoring. Step 2 is we're going to add a little bit of slip. Now, slip is just clay and water mixed together, liquidy clay. You don't need a lot of it, but just paint some slip onto the scoring. That's going to act like the glue. And then we're going to place our coil down with some firm downward pressure. Now, you can just keep going up, but personally I like to do a layer at a time. So I'm going to take my little potter's knife and I'm going to slice away that excess clay. Give that a little bit of a scratch and join those 2 ends together. So we scored it, we added some slip, and now the next and final step is to do some blending. So you don't want to be able to see where the 2 coils attached, and you don't want to see where the coil attached to the base. So I'm going to start with the inside, just using my wooden knife tool. And I'm just going to pull some of that clay down I'm going to pull the clay across where the two coils join together, and on the outside, again, I'm going to pull some of that clay downwards. You can also use your thumb to do this. Your thumb works quite nicely when the clay is still quite soft. Once you've got that first coil attached, I like to just roll out a few coils and have them in front of me, and then start to build up my pot. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So now that I've got my coils pre-rolled, I'm going to go ahead and start attaching. So I'm going to scratch, I'm going to slip, and then I'm going to blend. Particular cup, I just want it to go straight up, but if you wanted to add some shape to your cup, it's all to do with the placement of your coils. So if you want your cup to start to flare out, you just place the coil slightly on the outside of the coil underneath, and if you wanted it to start to come in, you would place the coil just slightly on the inside of the coil underneath. But I think I just want mine to keep going straight, so I'm going to keep adding my last 3 coils just directly above the coil beneath it. Now you have the choice if you want to blend after each individual coil, or if you want to build a little bit and then blend them all together, which is what I'm going to do on this one here. Now this clay is still very soft, so similar to what we did with the pinch pot, I'm going to allow it to sit and firm up a little bit before we finish and do our refining. All right, so now that my pot has firmed up a little bit, I'm basically going to do the same thing that we did with our pinch pots to refine the sides of the pot. So the first thing I'm going to do is to level the rim in the same way I did before, using my little harp and a ruler. And next, I'm going to use my metal rib to smooth and scrape the sides. I'm just going to smooth it over with my rubber rib now. And then I'll just work to refine the rim. All right, so I've just gone around and I've done a little bit of pinching around the rim to make the rim a little bit thinner and a little bit more refined. And that concludes our coil-built cup. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments and join us for our next video, which is all about slab building.